The Detroit Lions just watched their season fall apart. Again. A year after going 15-2, Dan Campbell's team collapsed to 8-8 and missed the playoffs entirely. Social media went nuclear. Lions fans posted videos crying on camera. The hashtag Lions Curse trended worldwide. Dan Campbell's devastated press conference went viral. But here's what most people don't realize. Detroit isn't alone in this misery. There are 4 NFL franchises that have never even played in a Super Bowl. The Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans. 4 teams, 4 cities, 4 completely different reasons for heartbreak, and the stories behind why they've never reached the big game. They're way more insane than you think. The Detroit Lions. If you watch their 2024 NFC Championship collapse, followed by their 2025 season implosion, you already know this one hurts different. January 28, 2024. The Lions led the San Francisco 49ers 24-7 at halftime. Lions fans everywhere were convinced this was finally it. After 67 years without a championship, Detroit was 30 minutes away from their first Super Bowl appearance in franchise history. 30 minutes. Then the second half happened. The 49ers scored 27 unanswered points. Josh Reynolds dropped a wide-open 4th down conversion. A deflected pass bounced perfectly into Brandon Ayuk's hands for 51 yards. Rookie Jahmyr Gibbs fumbled. Dan Campbell went for it on 4th down twice in field goal range. Failed both times. The final score? 34-31, 49ers. Detroit's offensive line coach cried on the sideline. Jared Goff walked off the field in stunned silence. And Lions fans, who had waited their entire lives for this moment, were left with nothing but replays of what could have been. But here's the thing about the Lions. This wasn't their first rodeo with heartbreak. It's just the latest chapter in a century-long tragedy. The Lions were actually dominant once. They won 4 NFL championships before the Super Bowl era. 1935, 1952, 1953, and 1957. Back then, they were the team everyone feared. But when the Super Bowl started in 1967, something changed. The Lions became one of the few franchises to never reach a Super Bowl, despite playing every season since it began. They've had legendary talent. Barry Sanders, one of the greatest running backs ever, retired at 30 because he was tired of losing. Calvin Johnson, Megatron himself, walked away from the game at 30 after 9 seasons of futility. Both Hall of Famers. Both gone too soon because Detroit couldn't build a winner around them. And that's not even the worst part. The 2008 Lions went 0-16, the first team in NFL history to lose every single game. Think about that. You're so bad that you make history for all the wrong reasons. In 2024, Detroit entered the playoffs as the NFC's #1 seed for the first time ever. They had one of the best offenses in football, a defense that finally looked good enough to win in January. The entire city believed this was finally their year. Then came that collapse in the championship game, and suddenly the curse felt real again. But what curse exactly? Some say it's the Bobby Lane curse. In 1958, Detroit traded away their star quarterback Bobby Lane to Pittsburgh. Legend has it, Lane cursed the team, saying they wouldn't win for 50 years. Well, 50 years came and went in 2008, the year they went 0-16. The Lions aren't cursed by magic. They're cursed by bad ownership, terrible drafts, and a complete inability to build sustainable success. Matt Millen drafted 3 wide receivers in the first round from 2003 to 2005. None became stars. The Ford family has owned the team since 1964 and has exactly 0 Super Bowl appearances to show for it. This is a franchise that had every opportunity in 2024 and still found a way to blow it. That's not a curse. That's just Detroit Lions football. The 2025 season made it even worse. Detroit came in as one of the Super Bowl favorites after that 15-2 season. The offense was supposed to be unstoppable again. Jared Goff looked like an MVP candidate early, but injuries destroyed them. Key players went down one after another. The offensive line fell apart without Taylor Decker. The defense couldn't stop anyone down the stretch. By December, the Lions were limping to the finish line. They lost 4 of their last 5 games, went from legitimate Super Bowl contenders to missing the playoffs entirely, from 15-2 to 8-8, from hosting championship games to watching from home. The curse felt more real than ever. Fans who believed 2024 was just the beginning, that this was finally their era, watched it all crumble in one season. Some said they'd never believe again. Others doubled down, insisting 2026 would be different. But deep down, every Lions fan knows the feeling. Hope is dangerous in Detroit. If you're enjoying these stories about NFL heartbreak and the teams that just can't catch a break, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down the history, the curses, and the moments that define these franchises, and drop a comment. Which of these four teams do you think breaks through first? I want to hear your predictions. All right, let's keep going. Now let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, because this one isn't about bad luck or dropped passes. This is about betrayal. The Browns were royalty. From 1946 to 1964, Cleveland won 7 championships and appeared in the title game 10 straight years. They had Otto Graham, Jim Brown, Paul Brown, legends who defined football. Cleveland wasn't just good. They were a dynasty, but they never won a Super Bowl because the Super Bowl didn't exist yet. By the time it did, Cleveland's glory days were behind them. Still, the Browns made the playoffs 14 times between 1965 and 1995. They reached the AFC Championship 5 times. They had some of the best teams in football during the 80s. The Cardiac Kids era, Bernie Kosar leading explosive offenses. They were always close, always one game away from reaching the Super Bowl, the drive, the fumble. Heartbreak after heartbreak in the playoffs against Denver and other AFC powers. Cleveland fans thought their time would come. They had the talent, they had the history, they had the fan base. Then came November 6, 1995. Owner Art Modell stood on a stage in Baltimore and announced he was moving the Browns to Maryland. The city of Cleveland was blindsided. Fans were devastated. This wasn't a failing franchise. The Browns went 11-5 in 1994 and were picked by Sports Illustrated to go to the Super Bowl in 1995. Bill Belichick was the coach. The team had talent. The future looked bright. Modell claimed he had no choice financially. But the truth was more complicated. He refused to share stadium revenue with the Cleveland Indians. He made bad business decisions. And when Baltimore offered him a sweetheart stadium deal, he took it and ripped the heart out of Cleveland. The legal battle that followed was unprecedented. The NFL brokered a compromise. Modell could take the team to Baltimore, but Cleveland kept the Browns' name, colors, and history. The franchise was suspended for 3 years, and a new Browns team would be guaranteed by 1999. Here's the gut punch. Model's Baltimore team, now called the Ravens, drafted well. They hired Ozzie Newsome, a Browns legend, as general manager. They built around the core that Cleveland thought would be its future. And in 2000, just 5 years after leaving Cleveland, the Ravens won the Super Bowl with Ray Lewis, with Jonathan Ogden, with a front office and roster that grew out of what once belonged to Cleveland. Those were Cleveland's draft picks, Cleveland's front office, Cleveland's players. They just wore different uniforms. Meanwhile, the new Browns returned in 1999 and have been a disaster ever since. From 1999 to 2023, Cleveland has had 10 head coaches, 42 different starting quarterbacks, only 3 winning seasons. They went 17 years without making the playoffs. They've been to the playoffs 3 times in 26 years and have 1 playoff win to show for it, a single playoff win in over 2 decades. The Browns aren't just bad at football. They're historically incompetent at building a franchise. Baker Mayfield looked like a franchise quarterback. They chose to move on from him. Deshaun Watson was supposed to save them with a fully guaranteed $230 million contract. Injuries and controversy derailed everything. They gave up draft capital and committed financial disaster for nothing. Every time Cleveland thinks they've turned the corner, they run straight into a wall. And through it all, Ravens fans have been winning. 2 Super Bowls, multiple playoff runs, all with the foundation built in Cleveland. The Browns don't have a Super Bowl because Art Modell stole their future, and Cleveland has spent 26 years trying to rebuild from scratch. It's not a curse, it's theft. The Jaguars joined the NFL in 1995 as an expansion team, and honestly, they should have been to a Super Bowl by now. Multiple times. Jacksonville's first 5 years were incredible. In just their second season, 1996, they reached the AFC Championship game, lost to the Patriots 20-6. Not bad for a 2-year-old franchise. The Jaguars had Mark Brunell slinging it and a defense that could shut anyone down. They were the model expansion franchise, building quickly, competing immediately. Then in 1999, they made it back to the AFC title game, lost to the Titans 33-14. Those losses hurt, but Jacksonville kept building. They had a formula that worked: strong defense, physical running game, just enough passing to keep defenses honest. They made the playoffs multiple times, always felt dangerous. But the real heartbreak came in 2017. The Jaguars had one of the best defenses in football that year. Jalen Ramsey, Miles Jack, Calais Campbell, an absolute monster unit. They dominated all season and entered the AFC Championship against the Patriots with a 20-10 lead in the fourth quarter. Tom Brady was on the ropes. Jacksonville was minutes away from their first Super Bowl. The Jaguars' defense had suffocated Brady all game. He looked frustrated, desperate. Then Brady did what Brady does. He led 2 touchdown drives. The Patriots won 24-20. And the play everyone remembers? Miles Jack forced a fumble, picked it up, ran toward the end zone. Then the refs blew the whistle and ruled him down. Miles Jack wasn't down became a rallying cry for Jags fans. The replay showed he clearly wasn't touched. He could have scored. Game over. But it didn't matter. They lost. Since then, total collapse. The Jaguars went 5-11, then 6-10, then 1-15, then 3-14. They hired Urban Meyer, who lasted 13 games and became one of the worst coach hires in NFL history. Meyer kicked a player, had scandals, destroyed the locker room. The franchise fell apart. Jacksonville's problem isn't talent, it's instability. They draft well, build a contender, get close to the Super Bowl, then blow it all up and start over. Rinse and repeat. It's maddening for fans who have watched this team snatch defeat from the jaws of victory over and over again. Ownership changes, coaching changes, front office overhauls. They can never sustain success long enough to break through. But here's the hope. Trevor Lawrence looks like a franchise quarterback when healthy. Doug Peterson proved he can coach and won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. The pieces are there. The defense is young and improving. The offense has weapons. The question is whether Jacksonville can finally finish what they started back in 2017. And in 2025, they're right back in the mix, fighting for playoff seeding instead of just fighting for relevance. The Jaguars have shown they can build contenders. Now they need to learn how to sustain them. Finally, the Houston Texans, the NFL's youngest franchise, founded in 2002 to replace the Oilers after they bolted for Tennessee. Houston has been playing NFL football for over 20 years, and they've never even reached a conference championship game. Let that sink in. Never. Not once. The Texans have made the playoffs 8 times. They've won the division 6 times.
There! The ball pops in the air, and Rankins takes it the distance!
They've had elite quarterbacks like Deshaun Watson. They've had generational defensive talent like J.J. Watt and DeMeco Ryans. J.J. Watt was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, an all-time great. Andre Johnson was one of the best receivers of his era. DeAndre Hopkins put up Hall of Fame numbers in Houston. The talent has been there. The pieces were in place multiple times, but every single time, they hit a wall in the divisional round and can't break through. In 2019, Houston led the Kansas City Chiefs 24-0 in the second quarter of the divisional playoffs. Patrick Mahomes looked rattled. The Texans were dominating. Deshaun Watson was carving up the Chiefs' defense. The crowd was going insane. This was it. Houston was finally going to the AFC Championship. Then Kansas City went on an avalanche, scoring 51 points while Houston managed just one more touchdown and turned 24-0 into a 51-31 beatdown. It was one of the most shocking collapses in playoff history. Houston couldn't stop Mahomes, couldn't adjust, couldn't respond. They watched a 24-point lead evaporate in less than a quarter and a half. But now, things feel different. C.J. Stroud arrived in 2023 and looked like the real deal immediately. The Texans made the playoffs in his rookie year. Stroud showed poise beyond his years, made throws that veteran QBs struggle with. DeMeco Ryans is building something special as head coach. He played linebacker for the Texans. He knows the culture. He understands what Houston needs. They've added Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon. The defense is quickly becoming one of the better units in the league. Young, fast, aggressive. Everything a championship defense needs. Houston finally has all the pieces. The question is whether they can do what they've never done before. Win in January and February? The Texans story isn't about heartbreak. It's about a franchise that has stayed good, keeps getting back to the playoffs, but still hasn't broken through to that first conference championship. They're competitive. They make the playoffs, but they can't take that next step. Every time they get close, something goes wrong. Bad coaching decisions, injuries, opponent going nuclear. And after more than 2 decades, patience is wearing thin. Houston fans are tired of being good enough to make the playoffs but not good enough to win in January. 4 teams, 4 stories, 4 cities desperate for a Super Bowl. Detroit had their shot in 2024 and blew a 17-point halftime lead, then collapsed from 15-2 to missing the playoffs entirely in 2025. Cleveland's franchise was literally stolen and rebuilt from ashes. They watched Baltimore win Super Bowls with their players and their draft picks. Jacksonville got within minutes of beating Tom Brady and couldn't hold on. The Miles Jack moment haunts them to this day. Houston can't get past the second round no matter what they do. 24-0 lead, and they still found a way to lose. But here's the truth. Every single one of these teams is close. The Lions are loaded with talent and have a coach who won't quit. Dan Campbell has built a culture. They just need to stay healthy. The Browns finally have a defense and a culture. Young talent on both sides of the ball, a foundation to build on. The Jaguars have a franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. When healthy, he can carry that offense anywhere. And the Texans? They might be the most dangerous team of the 4. C.J. Stroud gives them a chance in every game. DeMeco Ryans is building something real. Super Bowl droughts don't last forever. The Bills made 4 straight Super Bowls in the 90s and lost them all. But they're contenders again now with Josh Allen. The Bengals went decades without success, then suddenly made back-to-back conference championships with Joe Burrow. The Browns, Lions, Jaguars, and Texans will reach a Super Bowl eventually. The question is, which one breaks through first? And when they do, will their fans even believe it's real? If you want more breakdowns of NFL history, heartbreak, and the teams trying to end curses, hit that subscribe button. We're covering the stories casual fans miss and the moments hardcore fans can't forget.